welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa.
And today we're talking about the PWHL because what a fun week we've just had. I caught a couple of games and then I had to stream some of the other ones like on the side, just listening in to the audio. I'm sure all of our European listeners are like, wah, first world problems, can't catch the game at a decent time. But, majority of the teams are on the East Coast. So these weekday games are starting at 4 p.m. I'm a 9 to 5er, so if anything, I get to catch like the third period when I get home. So, but overall, like I have been just generally excited to see the turnout. Minnesota's home opener saw, what was it, over 13,000 in attendance. I've never been to the Xcel Energy Center, which is where the Minnesota Wild also play, but I did look at the capacity for it, and it's just shy of 18,000. But Minnesota's home opener saw 13,316. So it looks like if you've ever been down to the pond where the Ducks play, they have like three three tiers, and I think they probably didn't open up the one that's at the top from what it looks like in this picture. But I mean, Minnesota being the state of hockey, like
It's impressive.
I can imagine that they could probably fill out that entire arena, and they should, because that amongst all the other games were pretty exciting.
I was only able to catch the first one this week, but even then, it was a really good game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for for those of you who are new to the pod or whatever, Jay and I started this Discord chat with a bunch of hockey friends from Twitter and stuff. A lot of people that we've interviewed on the podcast already, and we decided to host a little viewing party with a couple of friends for the very first game on Monday, right? The first, right before the Winter
Yes.
Classic.
Uh-huh.
We were
Mm-hmm.
watching the New York and Toronto game, and it was like I have seen a couple of women's hockey games before, and they were fun, but they always seemed a bit slower than the men's, right? This one was really fast paced. It was really fun. There was a lot of physicality that took me by surprise because it's always been like there's been a rule that there's like no contact in women's hockey or whatever, but I guess that's something that they changed this year. Apparently, they hired AHL refs so they could let some things go, and they're not used to calling, certain hits or whatever. But it was really fun. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch more than that one game this week, but I've been trying to catch highlights and things. The attendance record was broken twice this week. Minnesota holding that record currently. And then they also hold the very first hat trick in PWHL history. Grace Dunwinkle, I guess it was her goals against Montreal, and they won that game. So that's fun. That our two teams are doing pretty good.
So one of the things that I thought earlier in the week when we were having our little watch party was it was Montreal against New York, right? That was the first game.
No, it was Toronto.
Oh, oops, my bad.
Oh no, because you said Montreal. Who was against Montreal?
And
That's my question.
Renee Desbian.
Okay. Oh, I know. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So she's their goalie, and that game against Montreal, who was it? I think, yeah, it was okay. I'm connecting the dots to what you were talking about. Like I was still on the first game, and then you brought that up, and I was like, wait, what? Yes, it was against Ottawa, and like it seemed like in the first period it was all Ottawa, and I was curious, like, what is the shot count on this? Because I just feel like she's getting peppered left and right, and just holding the fort down while her team tries to, fend off Ottawa's attack. Um, and I'm used to just looking up where the score is and being able to look at it. And, it wasn't available, which I figured, oh, they're still working out stuff. I'm sure they've, someone's got to keep track of it. And maybe they're working out the kinks like on the back end. But by the end of the week, they had a shot clock available. I'm like, nice,
Nice.
awesome. Because it's
Making
just one of those
improvements.
things where I'm just like, Jesus, like
Yeah.
she's just, just hanging on, keeping that team alive. And I mean, you can go online, you could probably take a look at it. I don't know how accurate it was early in the week or, where it is now, but it's just one of those things where I guess they kind of figure that like that's something that viewers at home or people who are just like keeping track of it would be interested to see. And it was nice to kind of just like see the evolution of like, we're adding more to the experience. And then just in general, like we've talked here and there about like our frustrations with like we just want to be able to watch the game. Like, why are you making it so difficult for this sport to grow? And I mean, I understand at the end of the day it's like a business. They've got to find some way that they can like uh you know make money off of it and things like that. And so I don't want to go into like any of that. We're just speaking like from the fan experience, and I feel like they have done like a pretty good job of like, especially with it being their first season, even though they've got these um, TV deals with like the local markets. Well, how do you grow it for folks who aren't in that immediate area, and then on an international level, and having it available on YouTube? Like it's just been really nice to just be able to quickly tune in. And even if you're out and about or you can't um sit down at home and watch it, you can just check it out real quick, like just like on your YouTube app, and it's just so accessible. um and then I liked seeing the support from NHL players. In particular, I saw that Marcus Foligno, when Minnesota had their home opener, I believe he was doing like the starting lineup. I didn't catch like the full clip of it. I just saw it in passing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was his kids that were also in
Mm-hmm.
attendance, his
His
daughters.
daughters.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's really great to kind of like give them that experience. Patrice Bergeron was there for Boston's home
Boston.
opener to announce the captain and assistant captains. So just kind of giving that signal boost and showing, especially the local support in like those big hockey markets. Like, it's just been really nice to see.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're doing a really good job in trying to grow it so far. I'm really enjoying the fact that you can catch it on YouTube because, like you say, you can just quickly turn it on if you're out and about. You don't have to find a TV. You don't have to pay for a subscription. um, Obviously, I'm sure once the league is pretty stable, they'll probably throw in a TV deal, and we're gonna have to deal with that later. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying the YouTube access because it's free. I don't have to like worry about like how am I going to watch this. It's very convenient.
Yeah, and like eventually when they start adding a subscription or something like that, I just hope they do it in a way that like I'm fine with paying as long as it's something that like doesn't cause me to have to jump through hoops to
Yeah.
to be able to manage. And for right now, with it being available and allowing people to engage and talk about it, like that helps them because
Mm-hmm.
people, like it's really great to see like on my Twitter feed, just like people talking about it. It's just like really great to also get that engagement and to, to just help share the love and help grow this side of the sport. Um, let's talk a little bit about the addition of allowing hitting in women's hockey. Like prior to the PWHL starting, even on the international level, like there was, body contact, but it's not like the men's side of the sport where you can hit someone
Flatten
against
them.
the
Yeah.
boards. It's like you can kind of like slide in and you can kind of like push into them and battle and things like that. But, you can't line someone up and like hit them against the boards and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. That would automatically be a penalty. But the addition of it, I'm like, okay, that's cool. But there were instances when I was watching where I was just like, that looks a little dangerous. Like one person, I believe this person is the social media um, admin for Sportsnet, was talking about how they should probably start like a clinic on the side to educate these players how to receive a hit and how to deliver a hit, because that's important to
Mm-hmm.
prevent yourself from getting injured, for you to injure somebody else. And so instances like that while I was watching this week, where I was just like, does that person know how to do that? Like, I liked this aspect of it, but if you're going to allow something like that, people need to like, you can't just like, people don't just automatically start hitting people. Like when you go and you move up in this sport, like there is a process of understanding that aspect of the game. You can't just go in and like check somebody. Like when people ask me, when they find out that I play hockey, and they're like, oh, do you get to check? And I'm like, no. And I'm glad that we don't, because I don't need somebody who doesn't know. Like, I don't know how to receive a check. And I don't want somebody, like the first day you come into like beer league at like a big novice level, that you're allowed to automatically just start knocking people into the boards. Like the whole concept of that is understanding the mechanics of receiving and delivering this check. And if you don't know how to do that, then it's like, no, I don't want this in this game at all.
Yeah.
Like I like, especially from my perspective, like I still want to go home intact at the end of the day. And like from the women's side of the game, like we know that there was a bit of like the salary talk, and right now like those numbers aren't really like available for people to know who's making what. But there's players that you know are not going to be making a whole lot right now while this league is growing. And we know how like healthcare works in this country. To find yourself injured because someone is not properly, educated on how to deliver a hit, receive a hit, and all that stuff, like that could be dangerous. But I don't know a whole lot about that side of it, but just seeing that comment from someone who's been further into the competitive aspect of it, like that is kind of concerning. And I hope something like that is taking place, where they're kind of educating the
Yeah.
players on how to do that, if that's an aspect of the sport that they're going to now implement.
Yeah. And some like the average fan, it's like it's a topic that you don't think about. right? Because when you're watching hockey, you're just watching what you see on TV. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes unless social media shows you. And someone who's just getting into the sport, like, how are they going to know? There's actually a strategy on how to check and how to receive checks and stuff like that. It's it's I think it's something that's going to come more as the league develops, if they're going to keep it in, because they're not going to want their players to get injured. These are star players that play for like their national teams. I think it's just slow goings right now, but I have been enjoying the physicality of it. It's one of the reasons I, prefer women's soccer over men's soccer sometimes. Like, yes, the men are very flashy and they do all these crazy, like, amazing moves and stuff, but they flop like fish. And it irritates me. I can't stand it. Like, you can't go 5 minutes in the game without someone flopping over and crying. Whereas with the women, because I don't know if it's more of a societal thing where it feels like women have more to prove. They are tougher on the field and they're like throwing each other left and right, and it's just more entertaining as long as no one gets hurt. But even when I played, we were pretty vicious on that field. My high school soccer team. Those rivals get pretty crazy, and like hockey, like these women are so passionate. I don't know if there's any specific rivalries developing right now. I'm sure someone like New York and Toronto, just for location or whatever. Well, actually, New York's playing in Connecticut, so I don't know if that would work. But I don't know. I'm curious to see if there's going to be like legit rivalries. Have you checked out the standings?
I saw that Minnesota's on top, right?
Yeah, they've won their two
Yeah.
games. I'm laughing because Boston's at the bottom. They haven't won a game yet.
Well, they've also only won one. They've also only played one. So,
That's okay.
yeah. I wanted to bring up some silly comments that I came across this week. And I've labeled them old hockeymen say. Old hockeymen say that the women should be allowed to wear half visors. Why? Why? And there's something that's going to come up later in this podcast that shows exactly the stupidity of exposing your face in a contact sport of this caliber. And when I was putting together my notes to talk about today, I was thinking about, like football. Can you imagine if we didn't have football players wearing their face shields?
Yeah.
Like what is like what is really the difference between, outside of the whole macho, like, oh, this is just part of the game? Like what is really the difference? Like, I feel like they're equally physical. You're tackling somebody, you're shoving them up against the boards, whatever the heck. So I don't understand, outside of old hockeyman mentality, why that even needs to be a point of conversation to devolve to wearing half visors. Like there's no aspect of the game that is being hindered by the women wearing cages. Like, if anything, it's great because they protect their damn face. Like, the face is not important to play. Like, the exposure of the face is not important aspect of the game. And in just scrolling through people adding to this conversation, someone said, well, it's bad for marketing because we can't see their faces.
What? But you can. But you can't. Okay. To that, it's the same. It goes back to what you said about football. You can't see their faces either, but you still enjoy it. Like, you can tell who it is because of their names on their jerseys.
Like, look at their jersey. Like, half the time, that's the only way that I'm able to know who's out on the ice, unless it's like unless it's like Omika Zibanejad, who's like the one of the few people with like super long hair. You know who that is
Yeah.
just from a glance.
Also,
But
their
outside of
numbers.
that, yeah,
Like you
like
could just.
I'm not saying, well, I'm gonna have to wait till this camera zooms in because I don't even know who's out on the ice. Like, how do you think the broadcasters know who's out on the ice? They can't see their faces either. So it's just like these comments
It's a
were
little.
just
It's a little
having me,
sexist, right? I feel
huh?
like these
Yeah, oh yeah, well, like, oh, how am I supposed to give a shit about women's hockey if I can't see how gorgeous they are?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Oh, so annoying.
but if we're gonna go on that wavelength, then that sounds kind of gay. That you're really into the men's
Men's.
side of the sport because you can see their faces. I'm really attracted to this game.
uh,
Um,
on the fun side, I saw a similar comment about the visors, but it wasn't like a serious comment. It was more so someone making fun of the fact that I forget who scored a goal for Montreal, and they were like they should allow they should allow the women to wear half visors if they want, so they can kiss their fiance when they score a goal if they want. Oh, in case y'all
See,
don't
that's a
know,
that's a valid reason. That's a valid reason for them to
it's an
wear the half
emotional game,
visors.
you know.
Yeah. So yeah, like they can't see their faces. Like I don't know who's on half of the NHL teams, and I'm still a diehard fan of this sport.
Hmm.
And if I can go back into my memory to when I watched my first Sharks game and got engrossed in it, like I can't tell you what any of those guys look like. So I don't know. Seems kind of gay that you need to see their faces.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, on Old Hockey Men Say, this I believe was a comment that didn't understand that checking or hitting was allowed in the PWHL. And so they were saying, they should have it. And then let's say if someone becomes pregnant, well, then they can just wear a non-contact jersey. And I'm just thinking, like, tell us you don't have a uterus without telling us. Like,
Ah, I think that was probably my favorite comment I saw this week. Like, can you be
I
any
just,
more unserious?
these types of comments that just like stop your brain, and then it's one of those things where the gears are trying to move and you just don't know how to like process what you've just read. That's what I felt in this moment. I was just like, what?
Like, were they being
Anyway,
serious, or was that like sarcasm?
I just feel like they, I don't know. Like sometimes when I see these comments and
It's
they've
hard to
got like a
tell.
blue check, I feel like they're just saying this stuff to just get like
Attention, yeah.
traffic. Yeah. To just have people like bickering about it.
Well,
So
I think they
if that's
succeeded.
the case, then you're successful at making back your $8 a month. Uh Do you have anything else to say about the PWHL before we move on?
No, it's fantastic. I'm enjoying it so far.
Okay. So, did you have a moment to check that Sportsnet
I didn't. Please tell
clip?
me. Tell me more about what this is. Dress me up.
Well, so basically, this panel was earlier this week when the Minnesota Wild went against the Jets, and I want to say it happened in the same game, but to be honest, I did not catch either one of them, and I wasn't following this whole drama very closely. But I did see the clip where Brendan Dillon was kind of taking jabs at Kirill Kaprizov's like hip area while they were up against the boards, and like there were two people battling for the puck. Kaprizov was just behind them, and then Dillon was like right behind him. And you see it often where they're kind of like doing little cross checks to kind of, push him out of the way, or maybe try to like trigger like some part of their body that would like, cause them to fall or something like that. But so they were commenting about that because that led to Kaprizov exiting the game, and then since then he's been out with what was deemed an upper body injury. So I don't know what like that's about. At one of the face-offs, it was Hartman and what's his bucket? Perfetti. And Hartman deliberately, and he was even uh he even made mention that he did it on purpose, that at the face-off, once the puck was dropped, he deliberately hit Perfetti up in his face. And it was supposed to be like this retaliation, revenge, old hockey culture mentality thing, because the Wild are now down Kaprizov, which is one of their star players, and it was, like sort of that whole eye for eye type of thing. So Sportsnet had the panel of Jamal Mayer, Jen Borderell, Caroline Cameron, and Sam Cosentino. And they were talking, they started out with Jamal and Sam. They were talking about how Jamal was saying he didn't like that Hartman went after like this younger player. He would have preferred that it was like a star player, and the whole old man hockey mentality of like, oh, we need to send a message, we need to do this whole revenge thing. And Sam is like agreeing like, oh yeah, they should have gone after a star player, not this like young guy. And I found like it was a little when he said, oh, a young guy who's got a history of concussion. And I'm like, okay, so would it
Give him
be
brain
fine
damage.
if the star player had a history of concussion, or is it not cool to go after a star player that has a history of concussion? Like, I'm just trying to get like the parameters clear here, what you guys are justifying of like who is worthy of being the next target, because you need to instill some revenge if when these teams go against each other in the playoffs. So they talked for like a whole 2 minutes amongst themselves. So they were on one side of the table, and Jen and Caroline were the other side. And I'm like just thinking in that moment, like the poise to sit there and listen to these two idiots just be like, yeah, revenge, yes, justified, whatever. And then Jen comes in and pretty much is just like, what the hell is wrong with you two type of thing. Like, you're talking about this whole, well, we need to send a message. It's like, we need to, get revenge for our star player. And she even challenged Jamal of like, what if that was your own kid out there who takes this high stick to the face? Are you going to be like, well, that was a good message to send? For him to go, yeah, you're fine with your kid getting whacked in the face, potentially, I don't know, getting an eye like permanently damaged because a message needs to be sent.
He wouldn't be okay with that.
I just, yeah. And in talking about this with a couple of my hockey friends, I didn't even realize that Jamal was on the Sharks once upon a time in 2010. And I like went back in my memory trying to remember, like, he was on the team. Like, I vaguely remember, like, I looked at the photos of him and I'm just like, I guess, but like, he's part of the, enforcer era, which I'm sure he was out there for like 10 minutes a game, just like, knock bodies around for here and there and whatever. And I came across a comment on Twitter that mentioned that Jamal was kicked out of like a U10 game at some point because he was yelling at teenagers. And I'm like, yeah, that
Was his
checks out.
son playing? Or
I
was he
don't
just
know.
watching?
It just all makes sense. You know, it's like they're kind of living in this time and space, and the fact that he would be fine if his kid got whacked in the face. I just like
But that's the
you're
thing. I feel like he's just saying he would be to prove a point on this panel. But if it happened in real life, he'd be the first one who'd be like, "I'm suing you for damages and this stuff." You know, like
well,
these.
I'm sure he would basically be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
But in this moment, like I believe when he says that he would be fine with it because he's just so stuck in this that's just that's what you need to understand when you get to this level.
Hmm.
And it's just like they're talking about it in a way where this is like life or death. Like you're going into this like, you know,
Let's give this man CTE because his teammate is the one that injured our player. And it's a weird way of thinking.
just the way that they were talking about it and being like, yeah, yeah, you know, they're just like in their little bubble of egging the other one on,
Yep.
and the other two are just on the outside being like, look at these two idiots. Like anyways,
Yeah. So let's talk about consequences of certain players' actions, whether intentional or not. Apparently, Connor Bedard has a fractured jaw. Okay, so I completely missed this. I'm just finding this out right now that we're putting our stuff together to talk about on the podcast. So, did he take a puck? No, you said someone hit him, right?
yeah, he was coming into the zone. Believe it was Brendan Smith who, from my recollection, like it just looked like he was going in for a hit, and you know he wasn't coming from like one side of the ice just to run right into him. I just don't believe Bedard saw him at all, and I don't think that there was anything wrong with the hit, but Bedard's face did just like go right into him. And he just exited the game, and then he didn't come back, and then it was like shortly after it was determined that he has a fractured jaw, and so now he'll be out for a while. I don't know if it's like a necessarily a season ender because I think it was. I don't know if Marner had anything wrong with his jaw, but he was out for a while, and then when he came back, he had the fishbowl,
Mhm.
and Boone Jenner also had an issue with his jaw, and he's back practicing. So it's not something that I think is going to be like he'll be out for the rest of the season, but he'll be out for the time being.
Mhm.
And
Imagine if they were allowed to wear the fishbowl the whole time. I feel like, I don't know, maybe this could have been prevented. Like, I get it. These guys are, well, maybe not Bedard because he's new to the league, but a lot of these dudes are very used to not having it only when they're injured and stuff. I think some of them complain about it being a little bit harder to breathe with the half visor in the cage. But at the same time, it's like, would you rather be in that much pain to have to wear it, or would you like wear it and prevent that
he's
pain?
a hockey player.
I don't know. Pride, pain.
All part of that mentality that goes into this men's side of the sport.
Yeah, I know. Poor kid, though. Do you think he was gonna win the what's that trophy? I forgot already. That's how.
For the rookie.
Yes,
The, is it the Calder?
yes. Thank you. I just blanked. Do you think he could still win it even though he's out for a bit?
I honestly haven't been tracking
Me neither.
like who the leaders are in that. Like I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, this whole Blackhawks team is built to somehow support him. So, speaking of that, the first thought that I saw when he went down, I was just like, no, the Sharks can't tank any faster.
They're on an 11-game losing streak. Like, how much more do you want them to tank?
That's what I said. They can't take any faster. You're trying to catch up to us by this is totally intentional.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to see
but
the
yeah,
standings.
the Sharks are last in the league if that's what you're looking up.
Yeah, but I don't want. I wanted to see the points. We only have 21 points
We're like 3 points back,
from the.
and they have a
That's
game in
crazy.
hand.
Interesting. Wow, we suck. Speaking of which, little quick Sharks talk. I read a little quick article this morning. Of course, Shane wrote it because he's pretty much the only one I read nowadays. There are some teams that may be interested in trading for Kakinen. How do you feel about that?
Sure. I mean, whatever. We're in a rebuild. I'm mostly unattached to
No, I understand that,
everyone
but
on.
like, what do you think the return could be?
It better be good.
It says here that the Hurricanes, the Devils, and the Oilers seem to be the teams interested in goalies for the right price. I'm like, give them to the Devils and give us Holtz. It's fair trade. Bring Eklund's bestie here and see what magic they can do together.
I want draft picks. I
I
don't I
mean,
don't really care at this time for
the
actual warm bodies.
this
Like I
the thing
want
is, like,
draft picks.
draft picks is always hit or miss. Like, you don't know if these draftees are gonna make it to the NHL and stick.
Yeah, but bringing in somebody right now, where are we going? We're going nowhere right now. I'd rather get a draft pick and start
Fine.
adding to the hopeful future
I guess.
than bringing in some other folks to mishmash with whatever we're doing right now.
I guess.
So it better be a good draft pick.
At least the
And right
second.
now, yeah, like because right now there are a lot of teams that are struggling not only on defense but on between the pipes, and our two are doing quite well with attempting to drag this team to a win every night, and they
Fail.
could probably be pretty successful in a team that could actually help them out.
Yeah. Yeah. Our defense is not great, and these goalies are putting up some really decent numbers.
I saw somebody in passing who was talking about Emberson and how they would be interested if like he was ever um, put up for a potential trade and having him come over to their team. And I was immediately like, no, you can just stay right away from Ty Emberson because Ferraro looks pretty solid with him, and I just that's been something we haven't really seen
Mm-hmm.
since Burns has gone off to Carolina, and I'm really enjoying Ferraro's confidence this season. So you can stay right away from Emerson.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that Greer decides to keep Ferraro. Like, I know he's been on the rumor mill or whatever, but besides the fact that he's like my favorite shark, I think he's good for the team. He has great personality for the locker room. Apparently, he has good leadership. That's why he has the 8 or one of them. I think I will be very sad if they decide to. Like, I understand if they do, but I don't quite think it's the right decision.
I guess we'll see in a couple months.
Yeah. Will I be heartbroken or, the same? Were you able to catch any of the World Juniors games? No, me neither.
Nope.
Me neither. I think I caught, who was it? I caught a little bit of one, and it might have been the US against. No, can't remember. Anyways, the US won which isn't surprising. I don't get excited for these tournaments. It's nice to see like prospects doing well, like within the organization, whichever team you root for. The Sharks had 2 players on the U.S., I think, and then 2 on Team Sweden. So gold and silver, looking pretty good for our future, right? That's the only thing that excites me. Is like if they have good games, that's what we're looking forward to. Will Smith apparently had a really good tournament. I don't think I heard much about Polkamp, which is the other prospect. But he was on the team. He also won. And then who was it? I didn't hear much about Bysted or Havlid on Sweden.
I heard a bit about them, but like to be honest, if I were to catch anything, like I was most likely catching the PWHL because this World Juniors happened in Sweden. There's no way I'm catching it during the week.
Yeah.
So it sucks that didn't get a chance to check it out, but from what I saw from highlights, the kids were doing good things. So in a couple of years, when they start making their way into the organization, whether at the CUDA level or the Sharks level, like it's looking pretty exciting for us.
Yeah. I was just looking. I did a little bit of research that the last time the U.S. won was back in 2021, and it looks like they win every like 3 or 4 years nowadays. Um, but check this out: who was on the team back then? There, Spencer Knight, who is currently with the Panthers. I think he's playing in their AHL as he's like rehabbing or something. Dustin Wolf, who plays for the Flames. What are they called? The Wranglers, the AHL team, who's really good. I'm excited to see him make it to the NHL because he's, born in the Bay. He grew up a Sharks fan, whatever. Henry Thrun was on that team, who currently is on the Sharks. Brock Faber, who's part of the Minnesota organization right now, I think he's also up for the Calder Trophy. And Trevor Segras, Matthew Beniers, before he was drafted, Cole Caulfield, Brendan Brisson, and that's all the names that I'm familiar with. But a decent amount of people, dudes that are playing in the league currently. Yeah.
I think that's all we kind of got this week. If you haven't checked out the PWHL already, you're kind of missing out like big time. So go catch it if you're in the local areas. If you're not, it's right there on YouTube. It's exciting time for women's hockey, and can't wait to check out more games.
Yeah, maybe we'll just become like more of a PWHL podcast at this point. They're fun.
All right. As always, I am your host, Jay.
I'm Nessa. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.